Good evening, everybody, and I welcome today's presenter, Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, for the program on Train 18. I also welcome Apurva Bahadur, who will be the person who will be introducing Sudhanshu. I also welcome all the guests today who are present to attend today's program. Today is an interesting program. As you know, Gyanadab brings programs on 3 platforms. One is Guldasta Urdu, where we bring programs on Urdu and Hindi. Then there is the English Book Club, where we bring English books every second Sunday. And there's Gyanpedia, where we bring knowledge-based programs today. Today we have industry stalwart, railway industry stalwart with the Sudhanshu Mani. I request Apurva, please introduce Sudhanshu Mani.
Good evening, everybody. This is a railway special episode of Gyanadab, and today's speaker is Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, who is a retired railwayman with immense experience in India as well as abroad. So while he has worked in various capacities within the railways, he's best known in public as the retired general manager of ICF, where he oversaw the design, construction and testing of the Train 18, which has been named as Vande Bharat Express. Now, Vande Bharat Express is India's maiden venture at creation of a self-propelled high-speed train set. And to their credit, the Train 18 was built within a very short time, designed and built, tested within 18 months. And currently, we have 2 Vande Bharat trains which are running Delhi to Varanasi and Delhi to Katra since 2019. And they've clocked over 18 lakh kilometers without a single failure. So that's to the credit of the technology which has been used. And since then, another 45 train sets are under manufacture, of which the 3rd rake, the 2 are running, 1 is already ready. And it will run between Mumbai and Ahmedabad very soon. And the government has a plan to build around 400 Vande Bharat trains in the very future to replace all the Shatabdi and the Rajdhani Express rakes. And Vande Bharat is an example of Atmanirbharta, that is, our self-reliance. And right from even the first prototype, around 80% of the technology was local, in the sense that it was developed by ICF themselves. And it had a very small element of imported components. And this ratio would improve as more and more trains get manufactured. So in this talk, Sudhanshuji will shed light on the various aspects of Train 18's, its challenges, processes and learning, successes, failures. So it's going to be an interesting session. It's going to be, so I won't take more time. Please write your comments or questions in the chat, and we will have a small question and answer session in the middle, the end of the talk. So Sudhanshuji, please start.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apurva Bahadur. I'm thankful to Mr. Farooq Merchant and my friend Apurva Bahadur for affording me this opportunity to speak to you about Train 18. I will now share my screen, and it has moved to the next slide, calling slide check.
Yes, sir.
Okay, friends, good evening once again. As you know, I'll be talking about Train 18, Vande Bharat Express. It is running as Vande Bharat Express, as Apurva just said, from 2 OG pair, Delhi Varanasi and Delhi Katra. And the 3rd one, as I understand, is likely to run between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. I come to you as a railwayman, and in your Gyanpedia, there are some rail fans, I believe, although there are, of course, exponents of various fields. You love it or hate it, Indian Railways in India is something you cannot ignore. I'm not such an accomplished speaker, so I borrow a lot from wisdom down the ages, what poets I call my uncles. And let me tell you in the beginning that as a railwayman, I have an inherent right to be derailed. So your attempt to derail me will not work. I will try some humor. Unfortunately for me, and fortunately for you, there is a time regime, so I cannot go long and winding. But let me tell you that in spite of all my pretensions to be well versed in certain other fields, whenever I am called to speak nowadays, it's only about Train 18. So it's the same old story, old wine in new bottle. In any case, there's not something like a beginner's luck. I have to every time look before I leap, because dead men don't tell any tale, and there's no point crying over spilt milk. So let me begin, as you can't teach an old dog new tricks. What I call my quasi sarkari talk. As I said, the old wine, perhaps some new terroir, some new body, some new tannin, perhaps a rosé. I said I come to you as a railwayman. I added this slide just because of some people who love railways. And as I said, if the love of railways throbs in your heart, that passion is undoubtedly irreplaceable. I will begin with what we know or understand about Atmanirbharta, a buzzword nowadays. It all began in 2014 as Make in India, simply to facilitate manufacturing in India, to make India a factory of the world. Perhaps had a moderate success. Came the COVID, and it was rejigged into Atmanirbharta with the hope that these lions of Make in India would roar into self-reliance. What we have heard are occasional purrs, certainly not big roars. And to my mind, my personal opinion, it's mainly because we have failed to visualize the true spirit of Atmanirbharta. So the government had all these measures, as you know, fiscal stimulus, collateral-free loans, generation of demand in the market by various means, and so on. But all that is for economists and financial wizards to ponder over. I don't know much about that. I, as I told you, talk mainly about what is the spirit of Atmanirbharta. I'll give you an example. If you read what is there in the blue in the middle, in bureaucracies, this Atmanirbharta is nothing but a 50% value addition, which is open to so much of manipulation. It does not talk about the value and the quality of value added in India. You may as well import something for 100, sell it for 205, and claim 55, 105 rupees as value addition, and it's happening. Because Atmanirbharta cannot be driven by such circulars and policies. We have to begin to understand as to what is innovation. You know, it's nothing but a mental construct, a refined concept. The same thing when it is refined after incubation. And when the cycle is complete, which is after the product, process, or the business, or a combination is activated in real world with an outcome of value. And so is born the technology, which is broadly a systemic knowledge or skill for a product or service, which uses expertise, of course, with techniques, methods, processes, allied equipment, and I say artistry. And I'll tell you what, for a particular usage. When you manage this, encourage this innovation, convert it into technology for any solution, and then manage it to flourish with a sense of pride at the ownership of the technology. That's what is truly Atmanirbharta. In railways, we are familiar with a term called transfer of technology. And we have all our rolling stock, all the locomotives, trains, everything that you see has come through a transfer of technology mode, where you get something in some numbers, ready-made, then you get PKDs, CKDs, then you get all the documentations, drawings, specifications, vendor protocols, test protocols, and so on, develop your own vendors, develop your own methods, and so on. You attend classrooms, you attend, you visit the factories on a foreign jaunt where you got the original rolling stock. But the upshot over the last 70 years has been that even after 15, 20 years of getting the technology, you don't make it to that standard to which you imported. There may be many reasons. One of the underlying reasons is this, that technology, friends, is not something which is amenable to transfer. It lives in the heart and the mind of the creator. And there is no technology to transfer that. The poet Firak has said, मेरे शेर आईना खाने में तेरी तेरी कई अदाओं के, या मेरे शेर आईना खाने में तेरी बेशुमार अदाओं के, मगर ऐसी भी है कोई अदा जो रहेगी सीना ए राज में. ये जो सीना ए राज में चीज रहती है वो ट्रांसफर नहीं होती. Good or bad, technology, ladies and gentlemen, is something you have to create. And if you create, that's when you get ownership. Through a transfer of technology contract, you really then don't get the ownership. There are pros and cons in certain areas. It's no good saying that we can create because we are not there yet. But let's begin. I want to begin with one question. And Apurva will try to help me get some answers from the chat box. And that. All right, before that, I wanted to show you some slide about, just in perspective, you are hearing so much about e-buses, e-vehicles. There are 18 lakh buses in the country. All this thrust on e-vehicles started in 2015 with FAME 1 and FAME 2 policies and so on. And as per the latest information that I have, the number of e-buses in the country today is around 2,500 out of 18 lakhs. And even those 2,500, the heart of the bus, the converters, the batteries, the traction motors, the control system are all imported. In a country where the control system and electronics and the converters are manufactured, even designed in the country for huge 12,000 horsepower locomotives and so on, these e-buses, the heart and the brain which creates it lies outside the country. The government is the spender. They have to think of the policy to tweak it and correct it. If we really have to have this lofty goal of going to so many 50% of buses by 2030 and so on. Yeah, so I come back to this question, which I have Apurva to perhaps get me some answers, is in any field, wherever, whatever you do, big or small, what is it that you need foremost, first and foremost? Apurva, can you get me some answers?
Yes, sir. I'll just look at the chat and get back to you. Yeah, Farooq Bhai said commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Ashish has written idea.
Idea, of course.
Yes. And I'm waiting for.
Yeah, okay, I get the hang.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I get the hang because obvious answers from all you experts in various fields is, of course, you need vision, leadership, will, determination, planning, resources, commitment, everything. But from my experience, I word it a little differently. First thing you need, to my mind, is you must love what you do, whatever you do. If you do that, you also would love the people around you, your colleagues, those above, those below. And you would naturally love the organization you work for, your own or wherever you are employed, and so on. We were talking just before the session began about automation. Yes, irrespective of all the automation, wherewithal, machinery, plants, so on, artificial intelligence, there is no getting around that your human resource is the most important resource. And unless that is big or small, unless that is with you, you're not really getting anywhere. The poet Jigar has said, "Ek lafz se mohabbat ka adna ye fasana hai." Ek lafz se mohabbat ka adna ye fasana hai. This word love has a very brief story. Simte to dile ashik, haile to zamana hai. Your primary resource is your human resource, and that's the first thing you must take care of. Well, love your organizations. So I talk about railways a little bit. You would remember as a child that scramble to get to the window seat as the magic of Indian way of life, the marvel of our country. The valleys, the mountains, the deserts, the trees, the fields, the indolence, the sloth, the hard work, the grind, the celebration, the mourning, everything passed you by. So much so that the purpose on an Indian railway train at times is the journey itself and not the destination. If you peep behind an open door, which we have in most of our trains, and see the snaking train behind you, that gives you goosebumps. That's the drama of a great Indian Railways and its trains. And remember, even today, in spite of all these swanky airports and even buses, still, railway station platform is still a place where the poorest to the richest still stand next to each other to catch the next train. In Shakespeare's Tempest, Antonio says that travelers never did lie, though fools at home condemn them. So if you are a prisoner of your own conflicts and contradictions, you may not appreciate what Indian Railways is. I'll take one more minute to remember my favorite poet, Majaz, which says about a train, कि डालती बेहिस चट्टानों पे हकारत की नजर, कोह पर हंसती हुई, पलक को आंख दिखलाती हुई, दामन तारी की शब की उड़ाती धज्जियां, खस्र जुल्मत पर मुसलसल तीर बरसाती हुई, अलगरज उड़ती चली जाती है बेखौफ खतर, शायर आतिश नफस का खून खौलाती हुई. So friends, that is Indian Railways for you, but I am not here to talk about this romance of Indian Railways, this legacy of what, 170 years. I'm here to talk to you about this. In spite of 70 years since freedom, an innumerable number of engineers trained in various aspects and all that transfer of technology and so on. Why is it that our trains have the same recall? You might have brought in the German coaches, you might have brought in air-conditioned coaches, but what you see on the left top of your screen is the train that brings to your mind when you think of an Indian Railways train. Even as a child, and I'm talking of 70s, I would see these pictures from Europe and Japan of trains which looked nothing like ours. And I always wondered why. Why do they all एक जैसे लग रहे हैं सभी चेहरे? मुझे होश की ये इंतहा है या बहुत नशे में हो? To cut a long story short, this was in my mind all the time, even before I entered railways, and close to 36 years of service. When I had barely 29, 30 months left, I came to be posted as general manager, and I had the choice to go to a zone, which is like a feudal empire, or a factory, which is a smaller empire, which people usually don't prefer. I asked for Integral Coach Factory, the biggest production unit of Indian Railways, because I had this lurking dream, which I'll talk about. When I got posted there, Integral Coach Factory was set up in 1955 as a dream of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to make coaches of current technology. And it was done with Swiss help. Since then, it has gone through numerous expansions, making same coaches, more of the same, more of the same. Not much input in terms of speedier, better looking, technologically advanced train, but huge, huge numbers. To the extent that this, what you see on the screen is a little dated, but that world record for having manufactured the largest number of coaches in the world rests with ICF, which is number is close to about 70,000 today, but more of the same. In 1950s, Premier Chow and Lai came to ICF. And when he visited it, he said that this is a place all of Orient should be proud of. And he would like Chinese engineers to come and learn how to make coaches. And where have we reached in these 70 years? We make a beeline to go to China to learn every aspect of railway. Why railway? Every aspect of technology from there. There was a dream which never became a good vision. And of course, hardly much action by our great railway engineers for the prime ministers, then the then prime minister's dream to be realized. When I got posted as GM, I was immediately called by one IIM, somehow, I don't know why, to talk about being a government CEO. I didn't even really fully know what a CEO meant. So I made my own comparison. Thanks to a lot of measures introduced by this government, giving a lot of freedom to the general manager in charges, I found that I was empowered as a GM, perhaps more than a CEO of a private company is, a large private company, because many things he does has to go through the board, not so for a GM of Indian Railways anymore. So you are given a wide canvas to paint on. So, but government being Sarkari, a usual way would be remembering my uncle Walid ki हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत लेकिन दिल के खुश रखने को यह ख्याल अच्छा है. Or my uncle Shakespeare कि भाई what's in a name? A rose would smell as sweet or as rotten. Well, to each his own, but what I'm trying to tell you, towards the end of your career, getting posted as a general manager on Indian Railways gives you immense opportunity to do something. And it is up to you as to how you pick up your brushes and paint that canvas. One of the things that you see if you enter a government building is on the one corner, you see a lot of buckets and brooms kept by the janitor. It's still there in many government offices. That's the first thing I attacked within days of my coming there. I converted that corner into what I called a family tree. 11,000 faces, because that was the strength of the factory at that time. Nobody big, nobody small, alphabetical. It became a selfie spot. People came with their family to find their own face. I had to use the help of my attender to find mine. But it gave an immense sense of belonging to people, to an organization which had been supposedly at least serving the nation for 70 years. The chief mechanical engineer, the kind of number 2 in the factory, had told me in the beginning that you have a lot of ideas, I find, which is good. But don't try to interfere with production. एक बांध में 2 शेर नहीं हो सकते. I said, yeah, that's okay. So I had a lot of time. I would just move around the factory in my big early days. Now it's a huge factory, and government factories have overemployment. There's nothing to hide that. Still, one walk, and I would encounter something like maybe 400, 500 people, and my routine was simple. In English, because it's mainly, of course, all Tamil workers, and Hindi they don't understand, but the English they do. Any problem? 99% of the time, answer would be no problem, sir. And this would go on for about 1.5 hours. Now, it may seem very trivial. Occasionally, people would say something about a toilet or lighting or something. There were a couple of engineers, nobody else coming along with me. That problem would be solved then and there. That was a piece of cake, actually. But the goodwill it earned me and the management was tremendous. And it cost me nothing. Another feudal mentality in government, which you would have noticed at some point or the other, is the executives, the officers have this misplaced notion that putting their name on a plaque when a facility is being opened would somehow immortalize them. And that's a funny notion because there is government money which has been spent. Maybe you made some effort, but nothing great. But to put your name like a king is so presumptuous. So I asked within 5-10 days of my joining the chief engineer, in the whole of ICF premises, including communities, including colonies, including community halls and other facilities everywhere, factory, just count the number of plaques you have with names of ex-officers, for officers, starting chairman railway board to GM to whoever. Don't count those which have the name of a politician, because politicians have a job to glorify themselves through these. So we leave them aside. So he came back and told me that there are some. I said, after you give me a count, I don't want to find any of those having been missed. So he took a day and he said, I got everyone to count, and there are some 160 odd such plaques. I said, okay, you have time till evening or maximum tomorrow morning. You extract these plaques and throw them in the dust. And that's where they should fall, because these are the people who thought they will be immortalized, and that's where they are going, to the dustbin. From now on, any inauguration, any facility, and we spent a lot of money, let me tell you. There's a budget of the factory was 10,000 crores, and I had stipulated a small percentage, 0.25% towards amenities and so on. And huge amount of money was spent to do up the factory, create facilities, communities, colonies everywhere. So every such facility, once it is inaugurated, it would be inaugurated by the senior most staff of that area. Because he is the one who has given his blood and sweat and tears for that area. He is the one who's going to appreciate his name on that plaque. He would, and they did, with their family, take a picture there. And while we felicitated them with a bouquet and a small model of a train and so on, I could see tears in their eyes. It was a very small measure, again, cost us nothing. And I said, no plaque will ever have the name of GM or any other officer. Maybe designation, but never the name. We did as many as 540 such inaugurations. In about 30-40, we called big, if it was a huge facility, 5 crores upwards and so on, some luminary of that fold, like a sportsman for a sports facility or a cultural icon for a cultural facility and so on. But 500 all done by staff. Now, in a factory of 11,000, which was reducing, if you have 500 and if they have 10 friends, half the number of the factory is won over by this simple means. Another little example before I go forward. There's so much of bureaucracy and protocol and straitjacket in government that there are layers. The lowest worker to the top, there is no interaction at all. So I said, okay, so my office is open. There's no secretary coming through secretary or a tender or anything. You just walk in. If I'm busy, just go take a seat, sit there. You are in my vision. As soon as I'm free, I'll talk to you. No, nobody will come and stand. Just go and take a seat. Anyone from ICF. I was told you will be flooded. I said, no, you guys are doing a good job of human resource management. Why would anyone want to come and talk to GM? And if anyone does, there is something that the GM must listen. And that's what happened. I was not flooded at all. And some of people who have an excuse, I don't know, you must be familiar. Somebody give a job, he doesn't complete it. Next day when you call him, or 2 days later, you said, what happened? They would say, you were very busy. Hell, I was busy. I told you to come and sit here. You don't have that excuse that I was busy and you couldn't meet me. Of all the love I talked about, in every organization, friend, you have 20% of the people who are so much self-motivated that all they need is a pat on their back. There's 1 or 2% who are incorrigible non-workers, shirkers, or others who you see on the screen. And the balance, 78% or so, watch as to what happens to these shirkers. Because if these shirkers get away, they also have less incentive to work. They would just, चलता है काम करेंगे. We decided we'll come down very hard on these 1 or 2%. We will first show love, but at the same time, we must show our poison. You know, sympathy should come after you've shown your fangs. Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, a Hindi poet, has said, क्षमा शोभती उस भुजंग को जिसके पास गरल हो, उसका क्या जो दंतहीन विष रहित विनीत सरल हो. All these people have only one punishment which we would give. Mind you, there is a whole series of punishment that government talks of. You stop somebody's increment, somebody's promotion, you reverse somebody. In railways, you stop somebody's passes and PTOs. And what you actually do is carry as a burden somebody who's dissatisfied with this punishment. If he deserves to be punished, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one punishment. Throw him out. And that's what we did. And the government empowers you, it's never done. In my 29 months tenure, we chucked out as many as 160 to 170 people because I passed an illegal order, which would never stand scrutiny, but I passed it all the same. And I told them that in all such disciplinary cases, the power not to sack somebody is withdrawn, which effectively means that the only power you have when you're dealing a disciplinary case is to sack somebody or exonerate him, but you better have good reasons because every such case would come to me. Remember, my uncle again, nothing emboldens sin so much as mercy. There is another very routine thing that you would find, those from private sector or even PSUs. In government, you don't have icons. You're so much entrenched in your feudal mindset that you don't know the value of icons. What you see, these three icons on the right is the integral man who had carried the burden of these 70 years of making coaches. 15% of the workforce was now women, the integral Mahila. The emerging ICF had to recognize this women power and a lot of stress on environment management, which I'll come to. So the integral environmentalist, and unlike any other organization in government, we wore ICF on our chest, as you see at the right bottom. There's no provision to give these uniforms to people, so it was all voluntary. And most of the people like to do that because the culture to wear your organization in your shirt had taken it. In our organization, again in government, which I keep coming to, perhaps in private sector, but I talk about what I have. There is the ideation. The spirit of innovation is always ordered, mandated, commanded, demanded, cajoled. And when it comes at times dismissed and ridiculed, patronized, all you need to do is encourage it. Never dismiss it. You can command it in a manner, which we did, apart from holding sessions with the lowest level of worker to everyone, to listen to everyone once a month. Also, the officers, executives were commanded. So they were in responsible position to have one idea per month. Now, it could be a very simple idea. Something very small. There's a table kept like this, you turn it this way and it improves your work area. Whatever, very simple. To the biggest idea, you are free to have an idea, but the baby is yours. You will not tell me after 3 months of review that X and Y didn't help me, so I could not implement my idea. You chose the idea, you have to implement it. It worked wonders. You see, out of 165 officers or so, or 170, except barring 5 or 10 dolts, everyone came up with an idea. We used to give appreciation of good ideas. And imagine in 29 months, you can do your math. 3,000, 4,000 new ideas implemented without any extra effort, all through the power of this human resource. As I used to say, अगर शरर है तो भड़के, जो फूल है तो खिले, तरह तरह की तलब तेरे रंग लब से है. Ideas in any field, productivity or community level, all open. Well, as you say, too many cooks spoil the broth through simple measures of productivity and outsourcing. Because there's no denying that the productivity of a contractor labor is much more than a government employee. You can't walk out of that. The government employee, because through his long experience, is definitely the one to do the core work. But a lot of non-core work, you can be more productive if you outsource it. So we said, okay, no shame there. We unions were told that, okay, the core work will be yours. You will get your incentive if you do that well, but you cannot tell us not to outsource. We will. And some productivity measures, you can see what happened. The number of staff per coach started going down. To the end, by the time we reached 4,000 coaches, it was 2.5 per coach. In 10 years back, it used to be 9 per coach. I said, I'll take no new staff, not one, except what we call compassionate appointments of when somebody dies in harness, then you do that. So the strength, 11,500 or so when I started, had already come down to around 10,000 by the time I left. But the productivity and the number of coaches in the range of 1,600 a year, we had reached 4,000. I talked about environment. We laid special stress on not leaving any roof area, ceiling area free and installing solar power practically everywhere. And Chennai is good for solar power. We already had a windmill that helped to the extent that by 2018 March, in that financial year, we were consuming less power than we were generating through regenerative modes of solar and wind. And we had taken measures to reduce our power consumption, various measures. And we became the first factory of Indian Railways to be carbon negative. And we continue to be so as far as I understand. There's a lot of stress on this Bharat Swachhata mission and all. It's mostly in showbazi. In our colonies, which were dilapidated, but we were trying to build them up, but still they were built in 50s and so on. But one thing I said is, I don't want to see any garbage in a colony, which is saying quite a lot in an Indian any setup, even posh localities. Because what you see on the right-hand top used to be those hundreds of those bins where garbage was thrown, it overflew, or it used to overflow, and some animals would come and graze there and so on, all that dirty site. I said, spending 5-10% more, because Chennai is a city where you can not only convert your wet waste into compost, which we did, 3 such plants as you see on the left-hand corner, but also recycle your solid waste and your plastic waste. Amenable, and we were able to achieve that. And you'll be surprised that the integral coach factory, we had 3,200 houses, 5 colonies. To my mind, except the IIT Madras, became one of the cleanest colonies in this city, where if you walked around, you would not see a speck of garbage anywhere. And there was this lake, which you see, which was like a water reservoir, I was told. When I was first taken to it, you could not see it. They say many GMs had come and gone and never knew that such a lake existed. It was hidden under wild shrubbery, and it used to stink to high heaven. Because sewer from nearest colonies, authorized and unauthorized, used to be dumped there for 30 years. I said, through community work, we will restore this lake. We did. It became a picnic spot, and we did these around the shore. We made these gardens for people to come and picnic. We had boats, all within 1 year. The deputy chief engineer told me earlier, this 35 years back, pelicans used to descend on this water body. But now they don't, of course. I said, yes. दालान में सब्जा है ना तालाब में पानी क्यों कर कोई परिंदा मेरी दीवार पे उतरे. You people have butchered this water body. We are going to revive it through all these technical measures, which I'll not go into it. Friends, today, two things. In 2019, when the city of Chennai had acute water shortage, the ICF lake was one water body which still had water, depleted, but still was there. And this is one water body where a group of pelicans come every 3 months. And what you see on the picture was the most pleasant sight of a water body in my life. We encourage a lot of art because art essentially intrigues, exhilarates, but it also pleases, and more than that, it builds teamwork. We had galleries, we had a lot of artists come and paint in the museum which was done up. In the factory, using professional artists as well as staff, to the extent that some people even remark whether what you see is a factory in an art gallery or reverse, it's an art gallery in a factory. The value of heritage and art builds team spirit, believe me. And I'll come back to this slide, and so does sports. So we spent a lot of money in creating the sporting facility. I remember that Tata, one could say that we also made coaches because we became premises with the best facilities in the city of Chennai, with floodlit hockey, astroturf, floodlit cricket ground, the best indoor stadium in the city, innumerable tennis courts, synthetic volleyball, basket courts, and so on, with not with a view that we would provide Indian or Olympic champions there, but because it is very good for psychological as well as physical rejuvenation. And also as something that a large organization like ICF can give to the city. And as I said, if your women employees are not with you, you're not going anywhere. So there is this Vishaka committee and other things, but it's a fact that a lot of women employees do get harassed on gender or sexual basis, and they keep quiet because our systems are such. So I said, if I learn of any such case verbally or through anybody, I don't need any written complaint. I don't need any deposition. I don't need any inquiry. All I need to do is within hours, not even days, to determine if the complaint is not frivolous. If it is not, the chief personnel officer was under instructions that by the evening or by next day morning, that gentleman should be sacked. And that power is given to you by Government of India not to do an inquiry if it so demands, and it does to my mind, because in our culture still, we have not encouraged women to come and report such things. And that gave confidence to these women that they were part of this large organization. They came to me that we want to build a coach on our own. I said, segregation. They said, no, this is empowerment. What you see on the screen, there were 30 such groups of women only. But what I show you on the screen are these ladies aged 23 to 57 building a coach, entire coach on their own. Heavy fabrication work supervised by a woman, an officer, woman officer. And you can see this photograph, there was big publicity and the pride they had in this, dressed like, as Air Force pilots and so on, because this was something novel. I have not seen anything like this really in all the industries somewhere. I'm not talking about light work. This is heavy work these women were doing. So frailty, thy name is not for Mr. Hamlet. You were wrong, maybe right at that stage.
Sudhanshu sir, 45 minutes ho gaye, so we need to.
Okay, we're quick enough. I'll just come to the main story now. That this is the time we did something about the.
Yeah, Manisha, you can take your time because we need to get to know about the train 18.
Yeah, I'm just there now.
Yeah.
Next slide is that. Yeah, right. So we did something about more of the same. These looks that you see, particularly the right bottom is the one we exported to Sri Lanka for the first time, when they said that there was a rolling stock which for the first time does not pale into comparison with Chinese stock. Earlier they used to, and we would be subject to some ridicule. I'll come to the story. So what is the train set? It's a self-propelled train with no locomotives, only two cabs at each end, and all the equipment today is placed under the board. The entire space above the board is available for passengers. It has many advantages. It doesn't need any reversal. It can come one way and go back the other. A lot of equipment can be placed under the board, so it has much faster acceleration, deceleration. It reduces travel time. It's more energy efficient because the number of coaches get reduced. You don't have these locomotives. Everything is under the board. You can provide more passenger comfort. All coaches look alike. There's no locomotive looking different from the coaches, so better aesthetics, superior maintainability. Spacious gangways between coaches. Not like the rickety vestibule we have in LHP or other coaches, but you can pass from one coach to another from a sealed gangway without realizing that you have crossed a coach. So the question is, it has so many advantages, and this is the type of train which is built all over the world for the last 30 years. Why is it that we don't have any such train? The answer is not very complimentary to Indian Railways. It's very simple. It's the internecine warfare department, because one department owns the locomotives, another the train. So whose fiefdom it would be if we make a train set? It was all about turf war, and what the country needed was consigned to hell. I used to tell that you can't really stop a good thing. I was also a cog in the machine, a part of that lobby. One lobby was trying to promote it, another was trying to stop it because imports were concerned. I'll come to that. But mine was a lone voice. There was one lobby which said we can't do anything really, so we will import. There was another lobby which inherently wanted to stop train sets. So for this battle was going on since the 90s. When I joined ICF, I was reminded of this simple circle where, you see, we all have concerns. Ye kaam nahi karta, wo kaam nahi karta. But we forget about that small circle of our influence where we can do something. Even Mr. Modi doesn't have this big circle. He'll also have a smaller, much bigger than ours, but a bigger circle. But that's the circle one should really concentrate about. शिकवा जुल्मत शब्द से कहीं बेहतर था. Shikwa means complaint, zulmat darkness, shab is evening or night. शिकवा जुल्मत शब्द से कहीं बेहतर था कि अपने हिस्से की एक क्षमा जलाते जाते. Light your own candle instead of cursing your darkness. Why am I talking about it? Because all my wistful thinking that why we don't have good trains was of no use if now, as in charge of this largest factory in the world, I didn't do anything about it. I had this dream, and this was trying to convert it into a reality. One word about this dream business. To youngsters, we say, live your dream. I modify it by saying, because you first take care of your bread and butter. But never let the dream die. Never let this extinguish. Let this fire of your dream lurk somewhere. ख्वाब होते हैं देखने के लिए, उनमें जाके रहा मत करो. But once you get the opportunity, because you will at some point, to do something about it, that's the time, as the President Kalam had said, his dream is not something that you see when you are asleep. Dream is something which does not let you sleep. देख उस ख्वाब में जब आँख खुल जाती है सुबह, क्या बताऊं मैं क्या क़यामत कुछ पे तब लाती है सुबह. So here I was. I had the dream. I thought I had the vision. And fortune, why do I say fortune? I landed in a factory which had these number of staff and officers, which had that chutzpah to do something new. For years, they were doing more of the same. They had this ennui written on their forehead of doing more of the same. All it needed was to channelize that energy to do something. And there was this opportunity as in charge of this factory, but there were doubts. Doubts that you may be a GM, but I was told that to make a new train, you need a sanction from the ministry. I said, that's easy. I'll go to the ministry and convince them to give me the sanction. I was foolhardy because there was derision, They thought I was spinning a yarn, negativity and so on. But the chairman was well known to me. He was my GM when I was DRM. I went to him. He said, "What can I do? The board is not permitting me to go ahead." I said, "You are the chairman. If you don't do it, then it will never happen. Do you think we can do it?" He said, "I think you can do it." I said, "Then don't stop there. You import whatever you want. Who am I to stop you? But give me the sanction of just 2 trains and I will make it at half the cost. And I will make it before you retire," which was maybe we were in April 17. He was retiring, I think, in July 20. No, sorry, April 17. He was retiring in July 18. I lied to him. I said, "We'll turn out the train before you retire and you will be the one launching it." And in the end, even if then that didn't work, I told him that I'm falling at your feet. Unless you give the sanction, I'm not leaving it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, killing your vanity is a very small price to pay. Somebody will kill your vanity someday. It's better you kill it today for a larger purpose. We got the sanction the same evening. And then I was told that we will design this train. We will manufacture this train on our own. But there are doubts. We'll spend about 250 crores. We thought that was the estimate, 225 crores for 2 trains. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, then who will be the scapegoat? I told them, yes, that's the problem, because our doubts are always our traitors. They make us lose the good we might win by fearing to attempt. गिरते हैं शह सवार ही मैदान जंग में, वो तिफल क्या गिरे जो घुटनों के बल चले. Days of your walking on your knees are over. You will be a mounted soldiers with me. If we give the country a train, which they appreciate, which they deserve, credit is all yours. If they don't, this man is retiring in another 21 months. What will they do to a retired man? The discredit could be mine. So far, so good. What will be the mode? I talked about this technology business. I said, it has to be our own. We have to have an ownership. We have to have the IPR technically defined. Good or bad, it will be ours. We are afraid of failures. Failures is what you feed this giant of success to reach success. Stepping stones to success. So never be afraid of failures, I told them. And you have learned over these technologies, you're going to use it now. So no doubt there, no discussion. We'll make everything, design everything right from scratch on our own. We'll make a table. We made a table of about 150 items, as you are technical things, which I can go into in the question and answer. We found everything we was in our command, or the industry which had developed since then, perhaps more in industry than in ICF. There are 3 areas which you see in green here where we were just not there. What would we do there? Because my uncle has said that a fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. Let us be a wise fool. Because there is no shame in accepting that you don't know something. Pretending to know everything is shameful. So, what does it mean? We'll be a witty fool, which means these 3 areas, we will not go to a technology provider, any large company. We will go to consultants who do this job for these fellows in Europe. He has no stake to go and supply. He has a stake to give you a good design. And that's what we need. And we have put a condition that everything that you do, every line that you draw, every word that you write in a specification, either through remote or directly sitting with us, will be in association with our staff. So that they not only get the know how, but also the know why. And next time they design a train, they will do it entirely on their own, even without this consultancy. And then I told them, now is the time, April, we have all time in front of us. We must show our purpose, courage, and valor to deliver this train. Why train 18? Because I was told that normally a project like this takes, in a systematic manner, if Siemens or Bombardier or somebody like that does it, 42 months, 36 to 42 months. And that's the way to do it. We didn't have that luxury. I was told that if we are going to take 42 months, By the time you retire, the design work would not even have started, and it would be abandoned as to why you're doing something. Who asked you to? By the new leadership, there was a risk. Manufacturer has not started, abandon the project, do more of the same. I said, yes, the fear is genuine, but I have a solution. And the solution is that our minds may not be where Europe or Japan has reached today, but we are still Indians and we work like donkeys if need be. We will burn our midnight oil. We'll talk to these consultants, these suppliers at their time. There's a time difference involved and so on, but we will suit their time to work, burn our midnight oil. We will turn out this train before I retire so that there's no risk of these being abandoned. You have 21 months, April to December 18. And to remind everyone that the train is going out in the calendar year 2018, we are today naming it Train 18. We were only fortunate that with all the hitches, glitches, joys, disappointment, roadblocks, and so on, it's a long story of 18 months. I have summarized in the slide where we did meetings standing on the shop floor, never in air-conditioned rooms, and so on. With God's grace, it lived up to its name twice over, not only in calendar year 2018, but also got made in 18 months, April to October 2018, when it was ready for launching. And that was done to a tumultuous ceremony in ICF or any production railway unit of India. All families of all staff were invited. A ceremony which has never been seen anywhere, and the kind of, thanks to press and media for once, the coverage it got was unbelievable. For us, it was just a train, our bread and butter. What it meant to the public is something I'm not able to understand even today. Perhaps for the first time, they saw something which they thought was truly our own. With all the tests which it passed successfully, especially the 182, 183 kilometers test, which was done to make it suitable for 160 kilometers per hour run. It was finally launched in service by the Prime Minister in February of 2019 as the service to Varanasi, and later the service to Katra on the second rake. It has completed more than 3 years of service, as Apurva also mentioned, and it has no spare rakes. But except for scheduled maintenance, there has not been even one occasion when the service had to be cancelled due to a failure. And it has never lost time in all these 3 years because of any technical glitch, which is something which is unprecedented on railways. And what you see at the bottom is, of course, after a gap of nearly 4 years, the third rake has also been turned out. Why it took 4 years is not a subject of discussion today. The good part is that it has been turned out. And before I end the story, since I said we will go beyond the hype and the myth, so I will take 2 minutes just to tell you, to put the record straight. I do have 2-3 minutes. So it's called world class. Was it world class? To my mind, because there were certain gaps. It was our first attempt. I would say that we tried to reach near world class. We reached near world class, but to call it world class would be an abuse of the term. World class would mean to be counted among the best in the world. We were still not there. There's a lot to learn, and it will take time. We had started work on sleeper version, abandoned. It's not being done. So I don't know why, because the drive is not there. But the new tender has come for 400 trains, out of which the first 200 is for sleeper version, but it will take 2-3 years to come. Meanwhile, you go on introducing these trains. As I said, 500 trains in 3 years. Okay, if not 500 in 3 years, 500 in 4 and 5 years. A big question which is not being asked is, where would you deploy them? Even these trains suitable for 160 are being run at 130, 140 kilometers per hour. By the time you reach 50 trains, you would have covered all the Shatabdis and all the premier day trains, which run at 120 kilometers or above, or even less. So when it would be a gross underutilization. And now, wonder the next 200, they are saying, that's why I said myth and hype, that the trains would be suitable for 200 kilometers per hour. And they are posters, official posters of Government of India from Indian Railways saying 2025, 220 kilometers per hour. I mean, what a joke. You don't have track for 160 kilometers per hour. You will design something for 200 kilometers per hour or 220, which is very bad in design. Any technical engineer would tell you that you design something for a range of operation. You don't design something for a height. If you design it for 200 and run it at 120, that's a poor design. Then I'm told that a lot of export interest. Of course, we want to export. I've dealt with so many export of diesel locomotives, but we only today export where India has an influence through an Indian line of credit. It would be good if someday we export, because if the value of the product, not to developed world, at least to middle level countries like Turkey or Mexico or Malaysia. Of course, Malaysia, we have exported something. But nobody is going to import from you based on your experience of 2 trains. We must run 10, 20 of them, learn a lot, improve, make it what I call world class. And yes, then we will be able to export. What's the use of talking about exports today? It will not materialize just like that. Has the world taken notice? Yes, it, because there were a big talk of import and so on. But do they feel challenged, as I read somewhere? Not, of course, no. We have a lot of ground to cover even today. When I'm said it is a great precursor to high-speed trains, no. What we did is a 160, 180 kilometer per hour train to meet a purpose. First time in India, proud about it. But to say that we are nearing high-speed train design, wrong again. We have to reach there through our effort. And if we go into this hype today, that means we'll never reach there. How is Make in India and Atmanirbhar belied? In all these 400 trains that are going to be imported, there is no talk of where would the train be designed. With this kind of financial leverage, 50,000, 60,000 crore, you can dictate. All these multinationals or whoever have to open a design office here using Indian engineers to design. Only some of them. Because tomorrow, if we want to emulate Japan or even China, what's the shame in it? They have reached where they have reached, not through hype. They did what we have done till now. After that, they branched, they said goodbye to all these multinationals and they make their own trains. Today, CRRC is the biggest corporation making trains in the world. And they make their own designs. It is the time that we had our own products. Industry has done better than Indian Railways in Train 18, let me tell you, because they don't have these trade jackets. But so that encouragement of the industry with a skewed field in favor of Indian industry. What is this talk of level playing field? Why am I giving a level playing field to multinationals? There should be a skewed field in favor of Indian engineers who are ready to innovate. This kind of a major disruption must come if India is to become a global powerhouse in trains. Otherwise, it will remain a pipe dream. And even the dream of Train 18 with all these 500 trains, it's ominous. It would be lost. And I hope it doesn't happen, because what I'm speaking is from my heart. And it's not a part of any criticism. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, sir. I think the first...
Let me stop shares.
Yes, sir.
Only thing that I want to tell for engineers amongst them, and with apology to doctors and lawyers and others, is as Hoover had said, President Hoover, it's a great profession, friends.
Yeah.
Because an engineer cannot deny it. He cannot put it under the ground. I like this quote so much, and I'm thankful that I'm an engineer. With apology, I said to other profession, and that's my labor of love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sandhi sir, I think you have made at least 10 comments which are complimentary, so you should be the first one to speak.
Sudhanshu ji, we should talk offline.
First of all, I'm sorry I buzzed the time limit, because Yeah. So, but anyway, I think I made up and ended it in an hour. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what we
Now,
need from you is a second session on Train 18. आपने तो सिर्फ ICF का बात किया, so let's talk.
Actually, people, sorry, Mr. Bidej, just 1 minute. People always ask me, why all these measures help you make Train 18 or Train 18 is independent of all this? I said absolutely complementary to each other. And it was because of these measures that we could even think of Train 18 and so on. And yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
sir, Sudhanshu, your talk was like when Lata or Asha is singing, and then 2 hours go by, but the music is so beautiful that you can keep on listening for next 2 hours, and it I would not have been bored at all. I mean, I don't know how 1 hour was spent in listening to you, because I looked at this presentation and it was amazing at probably 10 different levels, whether it is a lesson in leadership, lesson in art, lesson in beauty, lesson in sustainability, lesson in bringing up women to the level of not being subservient, but at the same level as men. I mean, I looked at that picture with, as you said, from 18 to 70, whatever your age range was, women working there. I think I felt so proud that I can't tell you. Just say Hindi mein kehte hain, "Phule na samaye." So that was the level, and I think there was a lot of learning. I made a comment. I had been writing comments. I'm sure you can read them later. But this is none short of Mr. Kelly, as you probably remember, who did similar things with SR-71 through his when he was working on the fastest plane in the world. He had there were very similar lessons. Number one, a lesson in leadership, a lesson in empowerment, a lesson in not taking any bullshit. That means if bad things are happening, whether harassment, this, that, money laundering, you cut them and nip it at the bud, so that only the talented, the most responsible, the most innovative, and the most people with ethics are working for you, and that shows into results. What you have achieved in 18 months is out of the world, and I want to applaud for that. I just hope you're not giving this presentation to a small group here. I don't know if it's in your plan or you're fully retired, but this is something that you should go to every government office, every private office, especially in front of CEO, and tell them what you have done, and make sure that they actually do and emulate exactly what you have done. I mean, to me, what you have done can easily be an article in Harvard Business Review, what a leadership should be and ought to be. I can, just like you, I can go for another half an hour praising you for all the things that I have learned. This was at the pinnacle of all the presentations that I have heard in Canada, because it has given me insights into leadership, insight into innovation, and we can talk offline. I don't want to steal everybody else's time, but this is by far the brightest and the best presentation I have ever seen. Thank you very much for imparting your knowledge.
Thank you,
Well,
Sudhir sir.
absolutely overwhelming, and thank you very much for very kind words.
Mustafa sir would like to speak. Mustafa sir. There are some questions. Azim Merchant is asking who decides the color of the trains. There are a lot of technical questions which I have written down.
And the aesthetics.
And the aesthetics. So how did that come about?
Okay, yeah. So one of the three areas, I know I moved it very quickly. Maybe you would have missed it. One of the three areas is, of course, the interiors, because we as railwaymen and engineers are so poor. That's why everything looks, and there's so much of criticism about those things of Train 18 also. So we did engage a consultant. One of the three areas was this interiors, and this was a company in France. Or was it Spain? So Spain, I think. So they gave us the blueprint and everything, and they also made a mistake. Let me tell you the first mistake they made. In Europe, the average travel in train is 1.5, 2 hours. I also used to travel. Otherwise, usually, we thought the train would be run between Delhi and Bhopal, where 160 kilometers is exploitable. But of course, politics put it in Delhi, Varanasi, because that was 2019 election time, whatever. 8 hours. It cut down the travel time from 10.5 to 8. But still, to sit 8 hours in a seat, you need a really comfortable seat, which our seat was not. It was a slide forward type European train seat, where the backrest has the snack table. And unlike our snack tables, which are rickety in Shatabdi, you could see, it is absolutely firm like an aeroplane. But it did not find favor with the public because that slide forward did not give you the same comfort as a reclining chair. They have corrected it, hopefully, in the third rate. As for the interior design, it was their guidance. Because of the shell manufacture accuracy, you will not find that the interiors were again world class. We did it much better than our regular trains, but we need to improve in the finish of the shell so that the interiors also match that without any gaps here and there. About the paint, I have written it in my book. The scheme was, we were collectively, a lot of schemes they presented. We chose one of them. When the doors came, they did not match with the blue lines on the train. So we had the option to change either the line or repaint the door, or leave it as it is. The blue color was different. And one of our lady officers, the finance officer, I went with her and they looked at it, and somehow the opinion was it's better. There is a contrast, let it remain like that.
Or the plug door.
Yeah, the plug door. So
Okay.
there's a criticism about that also, but I'm no expert in aesthetics. So I'll neither say it was good or bad. I would only say that, we did whatever we could at that time. And it's a matter, something that we can definitely improve over time.
There are some technical questions about the type of coupling and
Sure.
how do the four train sets couple? Are there different couplers between the two? Are they drawbar couplers between the two sets? Is there something you want to take up, or?
Yeah, I'll take it very briefly. These are trains which are not meant for any disconnection and connection frequency. It's a rare occasion. So
Okay.
you have the luxury and the occasion to have what we call a permanently coupled permanent coupler,
Okay.
which is not amenable to quick disconnection. So you can then play with the design in 1,000 manners. And that's the type of coupling it has. All the couplings are same, all over 16 coaches, no different between four. The four is called a basic unit. In terms of the propulsion system, 1-4, it doesn't have a cab because there are only two cabs, the first and the 16th. But the 4 coach in itself is competent to run on its own. 4 can run on their own, but because there's no cab, it can't. So that's an electrical coupling issue. But the mechanical coupling is same, what is called a permanently coupled system. And there's a company called Delner in Chennai, fortunately, from which we purchased it. And there's another company by now, I think, which manufactures it.
There are also questions about the sleeper version of it and the double deck version of it, and
Okay, yeah.
where are we with that? Yeah.
So first, I'll come to double decker. Unfortunately, something called schedule of dimensions,
Yeah.
which defines what envelope we can have for a train,
Yeah.
on our Indian railway tracks.
Yeah.
So that schedule of dimensions define the maximum moving dimension for train.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can have infringements. So that legacy has it the way it was built. Whatever, there may be 1,000 reasons, and there may be 1,000 good or bad reasons, and so on. But what we have today does not permit a very high train. You would have seen our trains' height compared to USA or even Europe, in spite of their OHE and so on, is broad gauge, but not high. So it's not a SOD very amenable to a good double-decker design. There, whatever you may do, you will not have a good. Like I remember TGV, I am about 6 feet half inches, but in a TGV double-decker, I could walk without without bending.
Okay.
But that's not something you can do in a double-decker design in India. So it suffers inherently from that problem. That's why they've tried once more, maybe one more try they would make. I don't think it will ever be very successful, number one. Number two, sleeper. Yes, that's my pain that we had started the work. It was abandoned, God knows why.
But there's no technical challenge.
Money, not a challenge which ICF cannot take up. They can do this sleeper version now without any consultancy. If they want, they can have a consultancy for interior design, because the engineers, we are poor in that. No harm in giving a small contract to somebody. Maybe in India itself, now you have good companies. In your Pune itself, there are a couple of companies which really want to design work for Indian Railways. And then technically, there's no challenge. So should have been done by us. Now it will come through this 200 train contract and it may take 3 years. So till then, you will not have Rajdhani train 18s.
Right.
So this is a baffling decision, but I mean, I cannot say more than this. I would have loved it to have been completed by now. I would have even called it last year. I used to talk about it. I used to call it train 22.
Yes.
Now I still say that a train 23 is possible, a Rajdhani train 18. But I don't think they have started.
Okay. Right, sir. Sandeep sir, you're still writing comments. So if you'd like to read it out, and then we can close it because we've already shot our time. Yes.
No, what I was asking was, there are so many companies in India itself that do a lot of the product design from an aesthetics perspective.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, why did you have to go to Spain? Because there are plenty of amazing designers that can do that.
You are right, sir. On hind thought, I would also, if I take myself back to 2017, I would also like to have sit with my team, because I know so many of them now. They keep coming to me. We keep talking, and bright young people. I've seen their, and I'm talking about train design. I'm not talking about other design. I've seen their presentations, their slides, and so on. So I would have tried my best at that stage to convince my team that we will go with an Indian designer. But I take your point. At this stage, just now, that's what I said. If you want to go to train 23 sleeper design, there are very good Indian companies who do this kind of work. And it would be a very fruitful association even now if they do it. I agree.
So one last question. What about ghat working? Can this train work in, say, the Bhor Ghats? Because you don't have a... Yes, no, without a banker. Without a banker.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what you would understand, Mr. Bahadur, is what they have is close to 11,000 horsepower.
Okay.
So, I mean, they have to just negotiate these certain gradients at a speed to hit them at a speed at which they will just cross through it. And there are 16 into 4. There are 64 axles, out of which 32 are powered.
Okay, so distributed.
Yeah, so adhesion would never be an issue. So ghat is not going to be a problem at all.
But the last vehicle is not powered. The last driving coach is...
no, it is like alternate vehicle is powered.
Yeah, so in case...
Right.
Yeah. So, but was it designed for this 1 in 27, 1 in 37 gradient of Bhor Ghat? Did you have it in the specs?
Yes. Yeah, the power and the adhesion that you have in the spec is easy to take it over any ghat section that India has.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sudhanshu, you talked about a book. Can you talk about 1 or 2 lines? Because I would like to read the book if it's available.
Of course.
It's available on Amazon.
You are based in US or you based in India?
Yeah, I'm based in Beaverton, Oregon.
Okay. In that case, physical copy is not available in US, but the e-copy is available. So if you like Kindle version, I will send it to Apurva just now. I will send it to you. And in fact,
Okay.
Apoorv, I'll request Apoorv to share your number with me. I would like to be in contact because I rarely find somebody who can praise me like this, like you have done, which has made my
No,
day.
but the reality is, I didn't have to doctor any praise. I mean, as a leader, when I listen to other leaders, I mean, you can look at. I was listening to you. I have heard similar stories with Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard with HP. I have heard similar with, as I mentioned, with General Dynamics and Martin designing SR-71. Again, in the kinds of time frames you are talking about, 18 and 24 months to design a complete plane that works at 3.5 Mach. You're doing something very similar on the ground in terms of power, in terms of looks, in terms of, I mean, there are hundreds of small things here and there, and it relates to not one human being. It relates, one problem with the rail, and you are putting hundreds of people lives at stake. So safety is at the prime importance, and in spite of that, you have a blemishless record on your train. Somebody had written, "Is this over-engineered?" Well, in case of life and death, you have to over-engineer it.
Yeah.
Just like planes, you have to have a safety factor of 30, 40, like what DC-3 used to have. Safety factor of 30. So that praise was worth your effort. It wasn't meant to make you feel good. It was meant to really reflect what you have done.
Thank you, sir. So this is okay, it is, the mirror image is coming like this, but this is
Oh,
the
we are seeing it properly.
Oh, okay. I will send the Kindle link to Apoorv, and Apoorv will share your number with me. Which will
Or
be my
Sandhi,
pleasure to connect.
I can ship you one copy from Amazon in India and send it to you.
बात करेंगे वो, कोई बात नहीं.
So
Right, sir. Farooq sir,
Yeah.
closing remarks.
yeah, so thank you very much, Sudhanshu ji, for a lovely presentation, and thank you, Apurva, for hosting the program so well. And railway runs in your blood, and railway runs in the rail fans' bloods, because they are asking so many technical questions in the chat box, and Apurva has been able to filter all of them. But Mani sahab, आपने जो काम किया, you have been a trailblazer. I'm sure some other money will come in the railway fraternity and will take it forward. होता है ऐसा. I mean, private industry में भी procrastination is one big problem, and motivating 10,000 people is not a joke. And doing a project and carrying so many portfolios, people who make a mechanical design, electrical design, air conditioned design, interior design, such a big task is not easy. But you have set a bar line, and I hope everybody appreciates. So Apurva and Sudhanshu ji, thank you very much. And
Thank you, sir.
all our people who joined this, the YouTube version of it will be available on Monday, and we have already gone live on Facebook, and I'll be posting the Facebook, which is non-edited version of this seminar, will be available for anybody who has missed it. I'll be putting in all the chat boxes so you can share it to your friends and everybody in this.
So Apurva,
Yes, sir.
if you want whatever questions are unanswered, you can send me through
मैं
email.
भेजता हूँ. I'll send you the entire chat so that you can see everything.
Yeah.
हाँ.
I
और
will.
रेल फेयरिंग को चलिए सर, आइए पूना. I'll take you.
Puणे आएंगे तो आपसे.
Yeah.
I also.
Definitely.
So you know Yogesh Dandekar, right?
Yogesh.
Achha, anyway, he is one of those. Pune has some wonderful designers of trains.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, from branching out from auto sector.
Yes.
That is because it is our Pune.
Yes.
So, but
I think,
Sudhanshu,
I was just going to say one.
Yeah.
One say, I think India needs money and money
Sudhanshu,
to go.
there was a time when we had only the Premier and the Ambassador car in the automobile industry. And then somewhere down the line, with a lot of criticism, Maruti Suzuki was launched in '84. And they changed the whole concept of, the international quality painting, bodywork, body shop, engine assembly, aluminium casting for the engine, aluminum head and all the things. And the whole automobile industry has changed, giving so
Absolutely.
much employment to people. I'm sure that what you have probably done may set different directions for people, So, and I've seen this happening. I've seen this happening in automobile industry. I've seen in two-wheelers. I've seen in the way motorcycles have come. I've seen the rapid advancement of, the capacity and the emission levels have come down and all the things. So I think people will be doing. And one day we should be able to make passenger aircraft like you are making trains. We should be able to, instead of going to Boeing and all these people, we should be able to make that also. In banana chahiye India mein sab cheez. Thoda fail hoenge, thoda lafda hoega, but then somewhere we will succeed.
Yes, sir.
Farooq,
Yes, sir.
actually, fail nahi hoega. Because nowadays because the technology has gone so ahead that before you launch any aeroplane in the air, you can simulate it, you can design it, you can test it, everything can be done.
Yes.
And I truly believe India has the capacity, has the intelligence, has the zest and the zeal to make this happen. All you need is Mani sir
leadership.
kind of good leadership. That's
Good
why I said money and money are required both
Yeah.
to propel forward. We have the talent. I think let's not underestimate. We have every talent to design anything that we can ever set eye on. As he was saying, you have to have a dream followed by a vision, followed by an execution plan, and then producing results. And I may add, you have to have the discipline कि ये करना है और ये किया जाएगा. You have to have that saying, I have the capacity to make it happen. Jaise Mr. Mani was saying, rain or shine, you have to burn the midnight oil candle. Do it. Jaise कहते हैं ना, when you are doing tuck pulling, you say, जोर लगा के hayya, and everybody pulls at the same time and things move. I think that's what I learned today from his
Before we
presentation.
end, I think Ravi Sundarajan and Shanmugh Bilekal have raised their hands.
Ravi would like to speak.
I can give him permission.
Yeah. Ravi, are you there?
Speak, yeah. No, he's there very much.
Yeah. Ravi, talk. Unmute kar, Ravi. He had a comment.
No. He has raised his hand. Anyway,
so that's it. I think we.
So you can catch up with them.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll send all those questions to you.
Yeah. No problem. So, with your permission, Maniji and Apurva and Sandhi and all the panelists, can I end the session and wish all of you good night and thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Thanks a
Thank you,
lot.
sir.
It was a pleasure all the way. Thank you very much.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.